Buying a car can be a very daunting experience, especially if you're not used to dealing with the dealership environment. And online, there's a ton of resources for salespeople on how to sell cars better, but there's not a ton of actual help for consumers on how to properly buy a car. So, my name's Johnny. I'm over at Perkins Motors in Colorado Springs, but I've been in the car business since I was 18, and I've worked every position on the sales side, all the way from salesperson up to finance manager and director to general sales manager and sales manager. So, I've kind of seen all the ins and outs. And I want to give you the important information as a consumer on how to make an informed decision, avoid a lot of the tips and tricks that a lot of grimy dealers out here do, and give you some information on how to actually purchase a vehicle and have a good experience. Today, I'm going to specifically talk about buying a used car. We'll talk about new cars as it's slightly different, but the gist is still the same. Now, when you're shopping for a used vehicle, the first thing you want to do is do your research. Narrow down what you're actually looking for, right? SUVs, sedans, trucks, vans, cars, 2 doors, 4 doors, manual, automatic. Find out exactly what it is that you're looking for. Do that research online and narrow it down to a couple brands. Do some research on the reliability, do some research on their ratings, their safety ratings, longevity, things of that nature. And once you've gotten that narrowed down, now you can actually start shopping online. You can do most of your shopping nowadays online, and with some dealers completely online. But we're going to start here and talk about websites like Car Gurus, Cars.com, and things to watch out for on them. All right, these are third-party registries that dealers pay subscription to basically advertise their inventory. So although they're a third party, they are paid directly by the dealerships, but they are free to use by the consumer. So when you sort things on Cars.com and Car Gurus by lowest price or best deal or most rated, you'll see that the top 2 or 3 options, they may not be the lowest price, the best deal, but they'll say something like sponsored or paid for by dealer below it. And that just means that the dealer has paid more money to put that vehicle higher on top of the listing. That's not to go to say that that's not a good deal on those vehicles, but just be aware of that when you sort lowest to highest price, the top section may not actually be the lowest price for those vehicles. So once you've narrowed it down to a couple options nearby and you're ready to go test drive, that's when you make the inquiry, right? A lot of people online complain about dealers constantly calling them. They won't stop calling, they won't stop texting. Well, don't give them your information. Don't go on there, put your info in. You can use all these websites for free. You can even check out the dealership's inventory website completely free. There'll be a lot of pop-ups and little buttons like click here for your payment and click here to schedule this and click here, blah, blah, blah. Don't put any information in until you're actually ready to be reached out to based on that vehicle. Now, you can either inquire online, put your information in and wait for them to reach out to you, or you can hit their contact us page and just shoot them a call and talk to whoever you talk to. Or if you like to play it a little risky, you can just walk on in the door. Now, most websites, most dealer websites are going to have AutoCheck or Carfax or other vehicle history reports. Make sure you review those. Make sure that the vehicle you're looking at doesn't have a brand and title, doesn't have airbags deployed, rolled back odometers, or other concerning things. You want to make sure that it's a clean car, unless you are looking for a better deal and want to buy a salvage title. But make sure you know what the title condition is before you go into the dealership. There are a few dealers out there that will require you to inquire or put some information in order for them to send you the Carfax. And if you do have to do that, it is, whatever. But if you do have to do that, then just let the dealer know if you're not interested in the vehicle afterwards and request that they stop reaching out to you. That way they don't blow you up. Now, the final thing you want to do at home before you come into the dealership is research how you're going to purchase the vehicle, whether it's going to be a cash purchase or whether you're going to be financing the car. If you plan on financing the vehicle, it's in your best interest to research some of your local credit union financing rates, look online to see what the average rates are for people in your credit score range, and do some research and maybe even secure a couple of pre-approvals, whether you're using your own credit unions, military banks, or you're using large national banks that the dealer may work with. This is going to help you later on when we get to the numbers on the vehicle. Once you have all the information that you need, you've done all of your research, you have your pre-approvals, you know what your rates are going to be, this is now when you reach out to the dealership to inquire about scheduling a test drive. Whether you're calling them or giving them your information to reach out to you, schedule a test drive. This is going to give you the fastest and smoothest experience, so they're not trying to run around, find the keys for the vehicle. They'll have the vehicle pulled up and ready for you to test drive if they know what they're doing. So once you show up to the dealership for your appointment, a lot of dealers are going to have you sit down at the desk with their salesperson, and they're going to ask you a couple of questions, usually a little quick questionnaire, just to kind of see where you're at in the purchasing process. It's a process to help the salesperson better sell you a vehicle and give them a better chance of selling you a car. But at the end of the day, it's your decision. You're the customer. You're the one with all the power here. But just sit with it, roll with it. Trying to refuse to do it just with newer salespeople kind of confuses them and they don't know what to do and they have to go back and forth. It ends up taking more time. Just answer a couple of the questions. Now, there are some people out there that'll give you advice and say, oh, don't tell the dealership you have a trade. Don't tell them if you're paying cash or financing. None of that stuff matters because at the end of the day, you still make the decision. Now, if you've done your research before coming into the dealership, you'll know what your trade is worth using websites like KBB and using CarMax and Carvana and other online bids to find out what your vehicle is actually worth. So there's no point in hiding the fact that you have a trade. You can let them know about it then. And it also does help with time because you can give them the keys to appraise your vehicle while you go and test drive theirs. So that way, when you come back, the numbers don't take as long to come up on the piece of paper. Once they sat you down, a lot of dealers will request that you do a credit application. Never do a credit application before test driving the vehicle. Okay, this is an attempt for them to lock you into feeling like you need to purchase the vehicle despite the condition it might be in. And a lot of dealers do practice this. We don't here at Perkins. We do give you the option if you want to see if you can get pre-approved. But if you're an informed buyer, for the most part, you already know whether or not you're going to be pre-approved for the vehicle. So if they require you to do a credit application before test driving a car, it's not worth it. Just go to a different dealership. Now, online, you've already gotten their Carfax, their auto check. You're able to look up recalls to see if there's recalls on the vehicle. One of the things that most dealers don't put on their website is an actual copy of their inspection report. Just request that. Usually they'll show you that anyways before you purchase the vehicle, but just request a copy of that so you can review it. And then just ask them if it's okay if you take it for a pre-purchase inspection. Now, be aware if you do opt to do a pre-purchase inspection with a third party, you as the consumer are going to be responsible for paying for that. The dealers won't pay or reimburse you for that because they've already inspected it themselves. But just the fact that they're willing to release it and allow you to do it is a good sign. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to, but you're more than welcome to do so and make sure the dealership allows that. Now, if they don't offer that, that's a stop sign. Don't buy from there. If they say, oh, we don't allow you to take it off and do a pre-purchase inspection, we do our own inspection, you don't need to do that, that's a red flag for sure. And also, before test driving the vehicle, ask about what type of coverage it comes with, whether there's manufacturer warranty left, whether it's a certified pre-owned vehicle from the manufacturer, whether they offer some type of guarantee or return policy. Make sure you know what the dealership offers because some dealerships offer different things. For example, here at Perkins Motors, we do offer certified pre-owned vehicles. We also insure all of our vehicles newer than 10 years old, less than 100,000 miles with a 6-month, 6,000 mile full coverage, exclusionary coverage service contract. Which is a really good coverage for our vehicles. It just means we stand behind our product. And a lot of other dealers offer something similar, whether it's 3 months, whether it's 6 months, whether it's a few weeks, whatever it is, just find out what it is before test driving the vehicle. Buying a car can be a huge hassle, it can be a pain in the butt. And for most people, it's the second biggest purchase they ever make other than their home. Now, once you've gone through all the stuff the dealership requires you to do, giving the driver's license, some require you to do insurance, they're going to have the vehicle pulled up for you. And usually a salesperson will ride with you. Some dealerships require that they drive it off the lot and switch once you're off the lot. Some of them don't ride with you. Some of them have to ride with you. Whatever the case is, just go along. And make sure that you end up test driving the vehicle. Now, you want to drive the vehicle in multiple conditions, right? So you want to get it on the highway. You want to make sure that it accelerates properly, that it can slow down properly. If it's got extra safety features, make sure that there's no warnings. At least get 5, maybe 6 miles out on a test drive, highway, city driving, full turns, full stops, reverse. Make sure everything runs smoothly and make sure that there isn't something that might pop up within the first few miles of you buying the vehicle, as that's a huge inconvenience to deal with. So make sure your test drive is actually testing the vehicle out and seeing how you like the fit and finish. Now, whether you're a mechanic or not, there's some pretty obvious signs that you can look for wear and tear on the vehicle. Make sure that the tires look good. Make sure that there's not excessive brake wear. Make sure that there's not leaks under where the vehicle was parked. When you get back from the test drive, pop the hood, look underneath, and just, even if you don't know what you're looking at, make sure that there's not fluid somewhere, that it doesn't smell weird, that there's not smoke or steam coming from somewhere. It's all things that you just want to make sure are nice and clean on the vehicle. So now that you're done inspecting the vehicle and test driving the car, this is where the awkward stuff tends to happen for most people. The salesperson will ask you something like, well, did you like it? Did it check all your boxes? If the numbers are right, is this the one you want to take home? Can we do numbers? Would you like to see financing? Blah, blah, all those questions. Now, at this point, as a consumer, if you are sure that, yes, this vehicle checks all the boxes, and as long as the numbers, the payments, the out the door works out for you, then you'll purchase the vehicle, then be honest about that, right? Beating around the bush doesn't help you get a better deal. And I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on part 4 on how to actually get the best deal. So if this is the vehicle that you want to move forward with, let your salesperson know, hey, if everything works out, if all the numbers are fair, we can go ahead and move forward with this vehicle. They'll be ecstatic to hear that. They'll be in a good mood. They'll bring you inside, offer you something to drink, maybe a snack. They'll sit you down and they'll go get your numbers. Now we're at the most important part, which is going over numbers and going into the box, the finance office, as it's called, right? And so I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on what to look out for, some grimy dealer techniques out there that you definitely need to stay away from, and how to make sure you get the absolute best deal that you possibly can. So now that you've test driven the vehicle and you've already agreed to look over the numbers, and if the numbers work out, you want to purchase the vehicle, the salesperson will bring you back inside and go over the numbers and your financing options, right? They usually ask you, how do you plan on paying for the vehicle? What down payments would you like to see if you're financing? But obviously, you being an informed consumer have already done your pre-approval. You know kind of what payments should be based on a certain amount of finance. You've done your payment calculators. You know what your rates are going to be based on your credit score. At this point here, just ask them for a full cash breakdown along with some finance options based on your pre-approval rates, right? So bring that out, say, hey, based on my pre-approval, I should be somewhere between, an 8 and a 9%. I have average credit, or I should be between a 5 and a 6%. I have top tier credit, or my credit's not the best. I'm building it. I should be somewhere between 15 and 17, or whatever the case may be. Make sure they know so that way the payment estimates that they give you are relatively accurate. Now, at this point, make sure they give you a full cash breakdown of all the fees, the taxes, the purchase, and make sure you go over the fees. This is the most important part. So you're going to see all types of different fees from different dealers. Some of them charge different things. Now, the most common that you're going to see is obviously taxes. Uncle Sam's going to take his fair share. Title fees, they usually shouldn't be much, just depending on where you live and what state you live in. But those are charged by your DMV and should be a flat rate at whatever dealer you go to. And then, of course, you always have, or not always, 99% of the time you have D&H, which is dealer and handling, whatever they want to call it, whether it's documentation fee, whether it's processing. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It is a profit for the dealership. Now, most states require that if the dealership requires one person to purchase it, they have to require everybody to purchase it. So it's not worth negotiating that fee itself. And I'll explain why in a second. Now, depending on what dealers you go to, you'll see all types of different fees, whether it's different dealer groups that do the same fees nationwide. But whatever they tell you, usually it's things like paint, dent, interior, undercarriage protection, windshield protection, theft protection, whatever it is. All of those are optional fees. You do not have to pay that to purchase the vehicle. Now, most proposals that they show you have somewhere in the fine print or on their website that says the optional fees are not required, right? Now, no matter what they tell you verbally, oh, well, this has already been added on the car. Doesn't matter, right? Unless it's things like actual like window tint. If you actually want the window tint, fine, that's cool. But some of the warranty protections that they offer to you, they're not required to purchase the vehicle. That's not to say they're not worth it or they're not actual good programs or that they actually don't do anything. It's just that you're not required to purchase it. What they advertise online is what you, under the Consumer Fair Protection Acts, are allowed to purchase the vehicle for, plus taxes and dealer fees. Now, the absolute one fee that I have a non-negotiable for, that I won't let anyone I know or love go to a dealership that charges this fee, it is a reconditioning fee on a used vehicle. This is always a hidden fee that they put somewhere tiny in the bottom of their vehicle description that says all of our used vehicles are charged with a $1,895 reconditioning fee. Okay, a reconditioning fee is 100% a scam. A used car priced online is supposed to be advertised fully reconditioned and ready to sell by telling you, oh, that's the money that we spend to get the vehicle up and running, new tires, make sure the brakes are good. No, that's built into the selling price of the vehicle. That's why it's priced that way, and other competitors don't always charge that. So if you have a dealership that's charging it, and if they don't waive it at your first request, just walk. It's not worth it, because a lot of dealers will have you just negotiate off of that and still end up paying more than the online advertised price. Now, regardless of fees, of taxes, of add-on products, dealership fees, whatever the case may be, regardless of that, the most important number on that paper is your out the door number. That's your cash purchase price option for the vehicle. Okay, so if you were to write a check, that's the number that it would be to purchase the vehicle. Now, the reason I say that that's the most important number is because by removing numbers above or adding numbers above, it changes that out the door number. So instead of nitpicking over this fee or that fee or this price or your trade just talk about the out the door figure, since that's really the number that you're paying anyways. And if you're financing, that's what your payments are based off of. So if you don't feel that they have a fair listing price for the vehicle and you want to try to negotiate the price of the vehicle, make sure you have a little bit of research, right? Hey, there's others out there. There's a bunch of options. Yours is pretty good price, but there are some for slightly less with a little less miles. So, blah, blah, blah. Make sure you have something to back it up with other than just pulling a number out of thin air. Now, as a salesperson, one of the most frustrating things is when someone asks me, well, what's your best price? Can you do any better? Is that the lowest you can go? When someone asks me that, I have no idea, right? As a salesperson, I have no idea. And most of the time, my managers don't know either. They know how much we're making or how much we're losing. But if I have a vehicle that's 150 days old and we're losing $3,000 on it, my best price would be break even, which I'm not going to do because we're losing $3,000 on it. So just because they own it for a certain amount doesn't mean that they need to sell it to be a break even. And frankly, a lot of vehicles, especially older units that you're paying floor plan on and all types of stuff, you're actually not making that much money on them. But that doesn't mean that there isn't a best price, right? So if you were to ask me, right, is that your best price? And I say, well, I got to go ask my manager. Let me go see. And I go, hey, Mr. Manager, is this the best price? And he tells me, well, yeah, that's my best price. That's what I listed online for. And I go, ah, man, well, they were really hoping we could take $100 off. And he goes, well, if I take $100 off, will they buy the car? Right? Now, at that point, does that mean that the price he told me originally wasn't his best price or that the $100 under is the best price? Well, what about 200? What about 300? If I just shoot these options to him without a commitment from the consumer, I'm not going to be able to make a deal for you, right? So as a consumer, the best thing that you can do is have a written offer to us. So you can say, okay, I see that your out the door number is $35,000. Okay. If you sell me this vehicle right now for $33,000, I'll buy it and drive it off the lot right now. That is a fair offer on a vehicle, and you've made it clear and concise. And now you've got to stand behind that offer. So if they come back and say, hey, he can take $500 off and be at 34.5, say, well, I'll step up to 33.5 or I'll step up to 33,250. This is negotiating, right? Not, well, can you do any better? What's your best price? All of those questions, they just bounce right off of the management team, the sales team. What you need to give them is a offer on the vehicle. I will buy the vehicle for this price today. By making those clear, concise offers, you are getting the best possible deal from the dealership. Now, don't say, hey, I see you have it listed for $35,000 out the door. I'll give you $1. How close to that can you come, right? It needs to be something realistic that they feel that they could actually earn your business. And if you're firm at your offer, that's fine. Be willing to walk. Right? You don't have to buy the car. Nobody is forcing you. You can leave. In today's day and age, it's definitely a much different market than it was 15, 20 years ago before the internet was so widely used. With the internet being so widely used now, there's so much competition online between dealers. It's really a race to the bottom. And everybody wants the most for their vehicles and wants the least for the dealers. It's business. Everybody tries to get the best deal possible. And there's nothing wrong with that. So just be aware that for the most part, most dealers don't have $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 of room in most of their used vehicles unless they're well over market value, which you probably wouldn't have come and checked out if you listened to part one, because you would have done your online research to see who has the best deal. And also, if you've done your research online and you've seen that this is the best priced one out there and you don't want to go through the negotiating process, beautiful. Sticker is quicker. Just sign up. It's easy. As long as that out the door number isn't stuffed with a bunch of fees you don't want, say that'll work and make the offer. Obviously, if you want a better deal, you can go back and forth. As long as you have fair and reasonable offers, then you can eventually come to an agreement, hopefully, and then end up purchasing the vehicle. So now here is the scariest part about purchasing a vehicle that most people dread, and it's seeing the finance manager, going into the finance office, the box, whatever you want to call it. It can be a very daunting experience for people, especially if you haven't been before. And there are a lot of predatory dealerships out there that practice things that I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on how to avoid and how to keep an eye out for. So at this point, now that you've agreed to numbers, your salesperson will usually have you do a credit application if you decided to do direct lending with the dealership and allow them to beat or match your pre-approval. So they'll give that to the finance manager who's going to get all your paperwork put together. At this point, you usually have a couple of things to sign, just front end typical paperwork, Carfax, recalls, inspection, things like that with the salesperson. You'll go through and sign that stuff with them. And then hopefully sooner than later, you end up seeing the finance manager. And just be prepared, because the finance manager, their sole job is to protect the dealership and increase the profits, right? So they want to make sure that they secure the money from the bank with a good approval that's going to get funded. And they want to make sure that they can sell you protection products on your vehicle that are going to increase the profit for the dealership. But that doesn't mean that these are scams. There are some products that I personally wouldn't recommend, but there are some really good products that you can definitely talk to your finance manager about. Now, the finance manager's job is to show you these products and show them as options for the vehicle in order to protect your purchase. If at any point they tell you, oh, you have to purchase these, this is the way the bank approved you, oh, we won't sell you the vehicle without this, walk and leave at that point, because one, in most states, that's against dealer board rules. It's illegal. Don't tell people that they have to purchase something. It's called payment packing, and it's definitely not legal. Two, it's just immoral. You spend all this time negotiating the out the door price on the vehicle. There's no point in them trying to inflate that at that point. So they should be presented to you as options, and be aware they are options. Having been a finance manager, I know most of the products that they sell, and there are some that are a really big risk of you getting your money back on, but there are four that I definitely think are worth it. And obviously it's an option and up to you as the consumer, but this way you know what they're going to pitch to you and you kind of have an idea before you come in. The first one, you've probably heard about it, is GAP. Stands for Guaranteed Asset Protection. It just covers the remaining balance of your loan if in a total loss your insurance doesn't pay off your loan because the vehicle's worth less than the loan. 100% get GAP protection either through the dealership or through your own insurance company if you're financing less than 80% of the sale price of the vehicle. So if you don't put enough money down or have enough equity in a trade to be financing less than 80% of what the vehicle was listed for, which is close to market value and what the banks will base it off of and what your insurance will base it off of, by GAP protection, you're going to get your monies back if you total your vehicle. It's 100% worth it. Most pushed one in finance are going to be vehicle service contracts, warranties, extended coverage for the vehicle and the components itself. If you're going to consider any of these, I would highly recommend make sure that the ones that you look at are exclusionary coverage. This means that instead of telling you what's listed as covered items, it tells you what's not listed as covered. And if it's not listed, it is covered. Those cover significantly more. There's way less claim denials with most companies. And it's definitely worth it, especially on vehicles that aren't known for the highest reliability ratings. And if you're worried about being able to cough up $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 for a vehicle repair, then it's definitely worth it to add that on to your monthly payment if that's something that is a concern to you. But once again, it is optional. The final two products that I would always recommend, especially here in Colorado, the roads are terrible and we live in the Rocky Mountains. I've bought windshield protection for every vehicle I've had, and it's paid off for every vehicle I've had. And same with tire and wheel protection. There's so many potholes, there's so much nails, there's a lot of construction. Just being able to cover tires when they go flat, or get a nail, or have a blowout, or wheels when they get nicked from potholes and the like road rash and things like that. It's definitely worth having those. It's just an inconvenience having to pay for those out of pocket. And I like having it all consolidated into one monthly payment. But that's me personally, because I'm not self-insured. I don't have thousands of dollars sitting around to pay and drop when something happens on my vehicle. So I like just having that in my monthly payment. Now, these are all things that your finance manager is going to go over with you and give you information on and give you the option to purchase. But be aware, just like the car, you can negotiate. Okay. And just like negotiating the car, you don't ask them, well, what's the best price you can do on this? Is that the lowest you can go? How good of a deal can you give me? Da, 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 da. Just make an offer. If the service contract's $3,500, hey, I'll buy it for $3,000. I'll buy it if you can make it $15 on my monthly payment. If you can make it $10 on my monthly payment. Whatever they need to do to move the numbers around to make it comfortable for your budget, that's an offer that you can make on those. And if they're willing to move, cool. If not, there are other third-party services that you can do outside of your loan. And now once everything's agreed upon, your finance manager is going to print all of your paperwork. And the two most important documents that you want to review and check are your buyer's order, sometimes called a retail purchase agreement or a purchase order. That's going to have the cash breakdown of every item you've purchased, the vehicle, your taxes, county taxes, state taxes, city taxes, RTD taxes. It's going to have your title fees, your dealer fees, your aftermarket products, your pre-market whatever else is added is going to show there with your total out the door. Make sure that lines up to what you've agreed to and review that one carefully. You're also going to have your sales contract, your retail installment contract. They come in a bunch of different forms, but the Federal Truth in Lending Act requires a highlighted bold box in the center of the first page of the document. And that's going to show you the most important things on your loan: your interest rate, the amount financed, the amount of interest you're paying, and the total amount of payments plus your down payment plus your interest. And that's going to give you your total purchase price after you pay all minimum payments and pay all of your interest. Now, you want to make sure that the interest rate is what you agreed to, that your monthly payment is what you were told and what you agreed to. And you also want to ask them, depending on what state you live in, if there's any prepayment penalties or penalties for refinancing or paying the vehicle off early. Most states don't allow that, and it'll be detailed usually on that first page of the contract. But you also want to check and ask the finance manager to say, hey, can you show me where it says that? So that way you don't have to be concerned about paying the vehicle off or refinancing when rates go down. So now at this point, it's time to take delivery of your vehicle, and it's the part that you've been waiting for. Now you've got your new car, everything's worked out, and everything's signed, and it's yours. But before you take the vehicle, walk outside, look at the car, make sure they did a good job cleaning and detailing your vehicle as you've paid them to do so. That is their job. Make sure it is clean. Make sure that there's not new scratches, dents, or dings that may have occurred during the detailing process. I have personally had that occur, and it's not a fun process to deal with, because then whose fault is it once you drive off the lot and notice it tomorrow? It becomes a pretty unfortunate thing. And the most important thing is make sure, and it's such a petty thing for dealerships not to do, make sure your car is gassed up. Okay, make sure that it has a full tank of gas. If they tell you, oh, we don't do that here with our used cars, da da da, just say, okay, cool. Well, you can shred the contract. I'll just walk. And you'll be so surprised how fast they'll run out and go, oh, yeah, we'll get you a tank of gas. No worries. Da, da, da. Right? It's such a petty thing. It's 30, 40 bucks, depending on how empty the tank is. The dealership can absolutely spare that. And it is to be expected when you purchase a $15,000, $20,000, $100,000 vehicle, right? Doesn't matter. Should have a full tank of gas. Now, the final thing that I would recommend, and I'm a bit biased on this because I work in the business, is be nice to your salesperson. Thank them for their time. And doing something small like leaving a good review is a great way to establish a good relationship. Me as a salesperson and as a manager, when I saw a customer that purchased a vehicle leave us a Google review, and I could see that the next day, and they were like, oh, they were great, no issues, they were easy to work with, made me a good deal, blah, blah. That type of stuff, I remember those names more than I remember others. And when they come in and they're like, oh man, I got a flat tire. Oh man, I'm noticing this weird noise with my car. And they get priority help because I recognize them. They're friendly. It's human nature. It's what happens in every business. So just make sure you're being friendly to the people that are helping you out. Now, with all of these parts put together, here are my final tips on when you purchase a vehicle. I will say this is probably biased coming from someone in the business, but I think it's helpful to not be rude or blatantly disrespectful, playing hardball, not telling them information, not giving them, any indication whether you're interested or not. It just makes the situation awkward for both sides, and it doesn't really help you out. That's like old school tips. At the end of the day, you're the consumer. You have 100% of the control in the purchase. You get to say yes or no, and it's your money and your car if you buy it. So you have all the decision-making power in this process. So being friendly to the people that are assisting you, as long as they're friendly to you, definitely return the energy. It definitely prolongs and builds relationships for the future and just makes your experience a lot better and a lot smoother, especially when you come back. And at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with the dealership trying to make money, and there's nothing wrong with you as a consumer trying to save money when buying a vehicle. It's a business, and it's a big purchase for you. So try to save money. They're going to try to make money. Just make sure that you watch out for those grimy techniques and never, ever pay a stupid reconditioning fee. Definitely watch out for that. Yeah, now that you know all the inside tips and tricks about buying a vehicle and how to actually make offers and do your research, definitely come down and check me out. I'm here at Perkins Motors in Colorado Springs. I do sell nationwide, but I'd love to help you out and see how you use the tips and tricks to win over on me. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. It was a pleasure spending time with you. If you stayed to the end of the video here, make sure to give me a quick follow. Make sure to leave a like. And if you have any other questions or need tips and tricks on something else, I'd love to answer them in the comments section. Just shoot me a comment, and we'll see you soon.